Okay, good morning again. A few business items before we get to our guest speakers. Thanks to Einer for the snow cones at National Night Out on Tuesday night. Thank you for doing that.
Well, I just wanna thank Tom and Pam Keeper for helping out, and Tom Perlipson and John Miners.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And then Terry and Dennis and Rick, they all chimed in if I needed help and whatnot, so thanks for that. Despite the weather, we still gave away about 140 pounds of ice, 250 snow cones, which is down, usually we do about 400, but
Okay.
kids were still eating snow cones, so they were happy.
Yeah, I'm sure they were happy. That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. And then while you guys were at National Night Out, the high school robotics team shared or presented a plaque, thank you plaque, to the Rotary Club. And so I will pass the plaque and the thank you note around. So everybody can get a good look.
They must be getting more sponsors because the plaques got bigger.
They
Need more sponsors, it's expensive.
It sure is. And then Einer, while we're at it, did you guys want to provide an update for the Jack-o'-lantern Halloween hunt? We had a committee meeting this past Tuesday.
We did decide on the charity this year will be the catastrophic funds.
Okay.
So people ask, to tell them that. I think that's about it.
That was the main.
Continue to push forward, yeah.
All right.
We're starting to look for sponsors, so we
Okay.
started talking about that with Charlie and Dennis. And looking for anybody else that may have
I could
contact.
give a suggestion now that you just announced that, for us that we want us to look for people. Put Guaynabo Medical Catastrophic Fund on whatever flyer you do, because that's gonna be a big draw. Look at all that, not good, and certainly you can think of that as people who be local and something.
We have our handouts and whatever.
Yeah, excellent. And then Rachel, any updates on the social with Dr. Dennis Godsby?
Yeah,
Monday, August 19th.
The 19th, Dr. Dennis Colby will be at the Village Hall first, and then we'll come here in this room. I have this reserved afterwards, so I'm thinking maybe like 6:30-ish. So thank you, Jim, for putting the sign up on there. So if anybody wants to sign up, just so I can give
Just an idea.
Jose a little update of how many people will be here.
Just gonna be ad hoc off the menu, right?
Yeah, we just figured we'll order whatever people want. And then I don't know if people know, Logan, she had a boy about a month ago.
Okay.
And then Jenna is due the end of this month, Jenna from Pro Healthcare, she's gonna have her 4th child. She's having a boy too, so lots of babies.
Wow.
Hopefully they live in the McGuanago Area School District.
Yes.
Right.
We're used to hearing a lot more about back surgeries than we are babies.
Wow, that's nice.
That's a good
Good change of pace.
I don't know if people do that, so.
Backs and babies.
Yeah.
Backs and babies.
Excellent. Thank you for the updates. Next week's speaker, Einer, has invited Paul Holt from Dogs Invests. Excellent.
What Dogs Invest, real quick, just what is Dogs Invest?
They train dog for kids with special needs.
Oh, okay, special.
Nice. And then, let's see, Charlie, you want to do the Rotary minutes?
Sure. Just continue my,
Yeah, continuation of
Last
from
week.
last week, yep.
for those that weren't here, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna retract all the way to a review. I was just giving a little bit of an update on the origins of this club. And where I left off last week was I was at the time still working at the accounting firm. I was president of the Mayfair Rotary Club in Wauwatosa, which meets at Thursday mornings at 7 a.m. And I was leaving there to come here, and I came here in October of '88. And that was just a few months into my presidency at that club. And I had talked with the district governor, and he got the Waukesha Sunrise Club to sponsor a club here if I could get one going. So where I left off was I just got word that Bob Gallitz was going to be my contact, and now I'm into 1989 into the calendar year. Still going to meetings every Thursday morning in Wauwatosa. And so I talked with I was new to the community. I worked here only as an accountant, auditor for the, of the bank. So I didn't know anybody, so I talked to Warren Hanson Senior. I don't know if many of you remember Warren Hanson Senior. He was, at the time I came to the bank, had retired. He was chairman of the board, but he had retired as CEO and president. And I said, Warren, I don't know anybody. I got to start to talk to people. I knew professions. I mean, in Wauwatosa, we had the assistant superintendent of schools was a member. The superintendent was a member of the Noon Club. We had the assistant superintendent. We had head of vocational services was a member of our club. We had attorneys, we had dentists, we had chiropractors, you know, accountants, whatever. And so he gave me a list of 60 people to call. Didn't know these people. Some of them were bank customers, and I just got on the phone over the course of several weeks, and I just started calling people, saying, "Would you be interested in joining a Rotary Club?" What's that? What's Rotary? You know, the closest ones were Wauwatosa, Waukesha, Elkhorn, and Burlington at that time. And so I started having meeting get-togethers in the morning for coffee on the lower level of the bank, which is a meeting room down there. Just talking to them about what Rotary is, what we do. Generated enough interest that in spring of '89, the Waukesha Sunrise Club sponsored a breakfast. And back at that day, in those days, 2 breakfast places in town were Market Square. You might remember out by Greenridge.
Yeah.
That's changed hands a lot. And Babes, which now is called Blue Bay, but it was Babes. And so I went out to Market Square and we had a breakfast, and all the people that had been coming, some came, kept coming, some came, never came back, new people came in. And we had a breakfast out there to try to get it started. And then we had a core of about 10 to 12 people that started meeting in the lower level of the bank. And just talking and trying to get enough people. I needed to get 25 people in order to charter. And we were not even halfway there. But in the meantime, I started looking and say, well, if we're going to have a breakfast club, where would we meet? So I went back to Market Square and said, could we meet in the back part of the restaurant? They said, nah, we're too busy. But what I could do for you is, some of you, they had a bar in the lower level of that restaurant. I don't know.
You'll get 25 people.
Yeah, and it called, I think it was called Papa Bears but he walked me down there and it's down these long stairs and it just smelled like beer all over the floor. You're in a dark basement. I said, nah, this isn't good. So I went and talked with Bob and Kitty Cocott, the old Roger Vista Gardens was Roger Walsh and Howie Annick, and talked to Howie. And I said, you know, could we get something going here? And at that time they said, nah, we wouldn't do anything. But then he sold it, the business anyway, to Bob and Kitty Cocott. And they opened up in the olden days, as a lot of you probably remember. And they said, you know, we're not open for breakfast, but I've got a waitress, Kitty, a waitress and a cook that might be willing to come in and make breakfast for you guys. So that was started up later in the year. We started building our potential membership, and we started meeting in the olden days. They would open up for us at 7 a.m. and we started, not a formal club yet, but we started meeting there for breakfast the latter part of '89. Now I was past my presidency. I finished in June. And so we were doing pretty good. So I'll leave it at that, and then we will continue forward from like December of '89.
Good. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
And started with cold call.
I love it. I love that.
I got a question. Leader, Paxton Murphy and I attended Waukesha Noon Club on Monday and gave a presentation at Rotary One in Fram Park. Did you ever consider building a Rotary building? I don't know if you. For meeting. For the club for the last 30 years.
I can't say that we ever talked about that. We've talked about moving to different places.
Yeah.
Get into that. Don't jump ahead.
Yeah, that's next week's
Like,
presentation.
no, we never thought about building.
Stay tuned.
And work to do that.
That's not true. I drew a plan.
Yeah,
for it.
yeah. Peter's got a plan.
Oh, really?
It's available, yeah. floated it a while back and nobody wanted to do it, so.
I don't.
I did.
How about Happy Funds?
Okay, birthdays, anniversary. Pin finds, anything.
All right, I think it's.
Okay. Whatever.
The buck is fine.
Couple out of.
I'm really happy the Brewers won a couple of games solidly.
Jackson Cheerio.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I got, youth football season started and we got our kids rolling hard and that's good stuff right
All
there.
right, there you
So
go.
Tom, are you still the
back in.
president of the
I am.
Braves?
I am.
Awesome.
When's first high school varsity game?
A week from scrimmage is a week from tomorrow, or a week from today, and the first game is the following. Thursday, they played the first Thursday of the season. Everyone else will follow the following Friday. They're on the road for about 4 or 5 weeks to begin the season, so there won't be a home game until late September.
Wow.
Old Warriors.
I'll put a little operational item also, just thanks to everybody who helped last Friday. I see I probably had 1,000 people or so out there at the Phantom Junction stage. As you saw in the bulletin, it was very successful. We came out probably a couple $1,000s ahead. It was as busy as we would hoped it would be. We had great support from a contingent from Associated Bank. It was great to have them out there. And then thankfully Dennis and Rick came by to closing, because I'm not sure they were up for all the closing duties, but they helped. So it was good. And Jerry, we're gonna have to figure out September 28th, because that's the next potential concert, but that's the same night as Education Foundation. It's one of the last Brewers games. So we're gonna have to figure out if we're gonna be able to do that and let the organizers know whether we're gonna be out there with selling.
We have to get the Associated Bank some yellow shirts.
Yeah, they were wearing their own shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all right. All right, we're gonna have Tom draw here. He's our guest today. All right. Read the last three.
Last 3 we have is 730.
730.
All right.
Good work.
Hey, don't throw your tickets away. We have a second chance lucky number draw. We have, we're trying to encourage our storage unit.
You're
So,
gonna pick it up.
couple glasses from the 2022 drive-through beer garden, so.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Oldies
but goodies.
Something you wanna?
No.
738.
That's me, but my wife's gonna kill me because I already have about 3 or 4.
All right.
Go on again.
Again, okay. All right.
And I'm the only one that drinks beer.
Got a bunch of glasses.
733.
Oh, that's mine.
Another.
So excited. Someone's gotta take. We switch it to who wants it. Been better.
Hey.
Okay, so let's get to our presentation. So Joe is gonna start, and you all know that Joe is our superintendent of the Mukwonago Area School District, just completed his first year and has been not only surviving but thriving in that position. So let Joe start. Go ahead.
I'm gonna actually put that on the calendar because it's good to get some positive feedback. I get asked often if I'm on Facebook, did I see what happened on Facebook? I don't need to go on there. I have enough people tell me I'm an idiot every day, so. So here we are, going into my second year, the 24-25 school year. This marks my 23rd year in education. So when I see 2024-25, it is a hard thing for me to kind of grasp. I definitely know I'm on the back 1/3 of my career right now. So as we get into this year, a couple leadership updates we'll go over today. We've got our areas of focus, our priorities. Dustin will talk a little bit about our CTE program, which continues to thrive in the district. Tom will talk about the thing that most people are worried about, which is our finances. And we're going to talk a little bit about our facility discussion. So we know that that is right on the minds of many in our community. So we have had some turnover in leadership in the district. We had a couple people move on, some promoted, some just were ready for a change in their career. But Stephanie Blue, you guys might remember that name. She was our director of student learning. She's taken over at MHS. She hired 2 new assistant principals this year, Megan Jelinek. She came up our system. She was a special education teacher at Section. And then Deb Paradowski is joining us from the Arrowhead School District. Greg Burton will be the principal of Big Bend. He's coming to us from West Dallas, West Milwaukee. Randy Hart is coming to Clarendon. She was a principal in Waukesha. And then Angela Little is replacing Stephanie, and Angela comes to us from the Cedarburg School District. So we're very fortunate. Among those leaders, we have people who have been in education for 25 plus years. We also have people who are brand new to administration. So we feel very lucky. The pools for those positions were excellent. We had 30 plus applicants for both. And as we think about where we're at in education right now, you might hear that our numbers, like for the pool of teachers is shrinking, the pool of administrators is shrinking. We found that that was very, very good numbers for us to choose from.
Any update on Jim Darren? What is Jim Darren doing this year?
He's moved on.
Okay.
He has moved on.
You guys will meet Greg and Brandy in October and November with Teacher of the Month.
And we will bring Angela to a meeting in the future. She is coming to us from Brown Deer, so we would have to kind of plan well in advance to get her here in the morning, because if you are familiar, the traffic in through Milwaukee can be challenging. I don't want to mess this up, so Jim, I might ask for your assistance. Is it a link? It is a link. Would you mind scrolling? As I talk? Last year, as I got started and was talking to the board, I can't speak for Sean, but one of the things that I always leaves the superintendent hanging out there is, how are they going to evaluate me? Right? Because sometimes for superintendents, those benchmarks can be quite subjective. And oftentimes that comes from like how many phone calls the school board members get as it pertains to what's going on in the school district. So our administrative team, our instructional coaches, our student services staff put together a number of key performance indicators for our school system. And so we represent this, we've presented this to our board, it's on our website. These are the targets that we wish to shoot towards academically in our system. One of the great things, and I attribute this to Sean and all the work that he did, 7 of our 8 schools exceed expectations on the DPI school report card. Our goal is that all of them significantly exceed, but 7 of 8 exceed expectations, which is a great position for us as a school system. Some of the other stuff on there is based off of internal assessments or state assessments. One thing that I would like to point out, this grade 3, we hear about literacy all the time. The state has passed Act 20, focusing on early literacy. That score that we have, our current state of 65.4, is the highest among K-12 school districts in Waukesha County. And so when people start talking about reading, they talk about literacy. Does this mean that our kids can't read? Why are you coming forward saying 35% of our students can't read? That's not it at all. This literacy benchmark is how did a student perform on a test on a day with a sliding metric every single day. So knowing that 65% of the Waukesha County school districts, it's one of the largest counties for as it pertains to numbers of school districts, that is an excellent benchmark for us to be able. Want to highlight that. ACT scores. We're shooting for a composite score of 22 on the ACT. When you look at school districts that are performing in the top 10% in the state, their high schools are consistently performing on the ACT at 22 or higher. So I put that as the benchmark there because it is our goal to have all of our schools performing in the top 10% of the state. One of the things that's the bottom one here, we want to have 2/3 of our graduates have an industry credential. We want to ensure that we continue to provide a comprehensive experience for our students, whether you want to go to college, whether you want to go into the world of work, whether you want to go into vocation, or you want to go into the military. We want our kids to leave ready for all of it. And we believe that that industry credential is extremely important. Jim, if you could scroll down to the second page, please. Tom's going to dig into the finances a little bit more, but we do have some metrics that are more human resources related and finance related. You see it in green, that means we met it, or that it is definitely ongoing, like our capital maintenance. We believe it's our job to take care of our roofs, our parking lots, our boilers. As we'll get into later in the presentation, the idea of a new school is something that we just could never save enough money to do on our own. Staff retention is important. We have a 94% staff retention rate. That number will shrink a little bit. We're talking about it at the table. Teaching has turned into a bit of free agency. And so when that number was tallied up at the end of the school year, we've had some resignations over the summer. I think the thing that we always have to remember is we are hiring veteran teachers to come in too. Right, so when you talk about this shift of teachers from one school district to another, we do want to retain our staff. We've invested in our staff. But it's important to know that these positions are being filled, and they're being filled by teachers who find our district attractive. So something for us to remember. Teaching for my entire teaching career, for most of the profession, was very much you got into a school district, you got hired at a certain place, you were able to look at the salary schedule. If you went back to school and got some credits, you put in years of experience, you would move across that salary schedule, and you had a pretty decent target. After Act 10, those targets went away, and teachers were able to wait a little bit into the summer, and they would find that the school district was in need of an English teacher, in need of a tech ed teacher, in need of whatever, and they could go there and they could get raises. And they could get big raises in some instances. So we see a little bit more of that free agency in the teaching market. SLOs, you might see that on there. Those are student learning objectives. We want to make sure that our teachers have aligned their plans to their goals for the year to what the school is working on, and that the school is aligned that work to what the district is working on, so that we can have that strategic approach to learning in our system. Is it possible to go back to the presentation?
Yes, but I'll ask this 59.5 and 64 with a 90%. This is not against you, but do we know what those numbers were 5 years ago?
We do not have that historical. Yeah, we don't have that historical.
I'm not
So we
reflecting
actually
on the
do not-
superintendent.
Thank you for asking that. So we don't have a historical number on that.
Okay.
When you get into that question, we have administered staff, student, and parent surveys. We did that in the fall of last year, and we did that again in the spring of last year. And at that time, we looked at it from a single question perspective. And so you put a lot of weight into how does one person respond to an individual question, right? And that also is dependent on like what time of year, are they in their evaluation site, you know, so there's a lot of dependency on that. In order for that number to really be something that we want to put our hands on, we need 3, 4, 5 years worth of data in order to see what is needed. We will hear that, you know, quote unquote morale. We hear about teacher morale, and we hear that, you know, that the job is getting harder, and no doubt it is.
I hear about teacher morale.
Yep, I do too. I come from a family of educators, and it's interesting how that has shifted over time. My mom and dad were teachers. I had an uncle who was a teacher. They showed up every day and they just did the job. It wasn't, and as we've gone forward and we've transitioned, the environment has changed such that the students, to a large degree, have changed. And they've changed as a result of technology. And I don't have it in this presentation, but we did put a policy in place this year to take cell phones will no longer be part of the school day. They have to be out of sight for the entire school day. They have to be off. Kids can't be walking around, scrolling around on their phones in the hallway. They can't have them out in the classrooms. What we have found is that they're a substantial distraction. They're a distraction to the learning environment. What they've done and what we see in our younger and younger kids is they have prevented kids from developing the interpersonal skills that we all had the opportunity to develop given the eras that we grew up in. And so conflict, problem solving, you know, Jim, you and I get into a disagreement. Jim's not bullying me. We just had a disagreement, but because kids haven't had that same level of interaction, that same developmental opportunity, that technology, we see that impact. So we are removing the cell phones from the program. One of the things that we hear, you know, like the school year, right, in our mind, it starts in September, it ends in June. One of the things that I just want, and our teachers in McGuanago, more than any other school district I've worked in, it's tremendous. The amount of time they put in the summer in professional development and curriculum writing, it's outstanding. We joke around at the district office that we don't have enough bathrooms because our boardroom and our training room is loaded with teachers every day. And you'll see that in our district office parking lot in the summer. And this is a testament to it. So in social studies, we have social studies adoption that just happened this year. We have a math adoption, Bridges, through K-5. We have a literacy pilot that's gonna be going on grades 6 through 11. This year, we have a science pilot that's gonna be happening in 24-25. All of those areas for our staff, we have a tremendous amount of voluntary participation in the pilot process in our school district. We don't have to pull teeth to get teachers to participate in this, which is great. It's a testament to their professionalism. And then when they go through these pilots, we survey them, we get feedback from them as to what program makes sense for us. So that is when you hear of a curricular adoption, when you hear of a program that we're using in the district, that often starts out, it's introduced, but the feedback on it becomes a very grassroots feedback from our staff. And that is why, if you look at our literacy results, you see the literacy results we have, particularly good through 3rd grade. So something that we're very proud of, not only from a staff perspective, but a student achievement. You'll see professional learning communities up there. 2 school years ago, Stephanie Blue and a team of people began to explore professional learning communities. And what this is a collaborative, data-focused planning process that our teachers go through. It is ongoing. They do planning in the summer, they set their school goals, and then they maintain those targets as we go forward. Because what we don't want to have happen is for kids to have an entire year of instruction, and then kids start to fall to the wayside. They start to, they fall through the cracks as we hear. So our teachers are collaborating weekly around student achievement. They're trying to figure out, is the assessment a good assessment? What do we need to reteach? How far can we continue to go with our class? And that is a process in some school districts. It's been around for a very long time. It actually started in Illinois. And for us, what we are starting to see is the improvement in our results. We don't have all of our state assessment results in. I'm looking forward to hopefully having the opportunity sometime in December to come to the Rotary and talk about what our achievement looked like this past year. Because the investment that the community makes into our school district, we want to be able to show you a good return. But we believe that the work that this professional learning communities plus some of our curriculum work has done really has started to move the dial for us on those school report cards and on those state assessments. And you can debate, is an assessment an important thing, right? It's just a test. We don't want to teach to the test, but that's our public facing, that's our result. And as Tom and I did some presentations on the potential referendum, one of the questions that we got was, what's the ROI? Right? What are we getting as a result of this? And that school report card, that ACT benchmark, those forward exam results, those are the ROI on what the community is giving us. So we need to make sure that those are where they need to be. Dustin?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. All right, so a lot of you are aware of our CTE programs. You guys have been in our spaces. We've held meetings at the high school. So you know the programs that are happening. The one thing that I really want to point out is our goal is not just to get kids in these classes, but to get these kids kind of focused on an area that they find passionate, passion in, and then go to the next step and to the next step. So they kind of create a pathway for themselves, not necessarily just taking an autos class or a woods class. But once they take that, be like, you know what, I'm really focused on, I really am interested in this. Now take the 2nd level, the 3rd level, and that creates those capstone experiences. So I feel like we do a really good job of creating those capstone experiences at the high school of 15 different pathways. But there are just some things that we can't replicate in the classroom. So one of the important parts for us is also getting these kids out of the building and extending that learning into the community. So we do that through our work-based learning program. This last school year, we had 182 students participating in a work-based learning experience. So a lot of you have heard maybe the term of a youth apprentice, or you've heard of an apprenticeship within a program. Well, a youth apprenticeship is a state program that we participate in. And it's beneficial for our students, it's beneficial for our community, and it's beneficial for our school district because of the way that the funding works, so that we can bring back grant dollars to be able to put back into our programs to kind of keep them thriving. So if you take a look at how many of you have ever heard kids just don't want to work these days? Have you ever heard that term? Okay.
I tell my kids every day.
Your kids are in 3rd grade. So it's a myth right now in the Mukwonago School District, okay? 182 students, this is from juniors and seniors, and this is just the documented. There are a lot of kids that are working that aren't part of the actual work-based learning program. These are students that are getting credit while getting paid while serving their community as well. So last year, some of the data that we have on it, our students worked over 57,000 hours during the school year. They have an average hourly wage of $15.36 per hour. Amazing. It's pretty crazy. Rachel and I were talking about how much we were getting paid in our first jobs. And we were talking about, her world helps this average come up a little bit. We have some students, all of our CNAs or certified nursing assistants are starting out around $22 an hour. Then they're doing their shift bonuses because it's a hard to fill position. And then they have their shift differentials because they're working in PMs. She said we have students working nights this year, throughout the summer, which is new. Some students are making $35 to $40 an hour working PMs on Saturdays that are hard to fill positions right now in those certified nursing assistants. So it's pretty awesome. So our students earned just under $1 million last year of the ones that are documented through our program, which then in turn, there's some different factors you can use. We use a factor of 7. So our total economic impact on our community and surrounding area is about $6.5 million based off of our students working, earning, and spending in our communities. And then, as Joe said, we have a goal of 66% of our students graduating with an industry recognized certification. So like I said, CNAs, that is an industry recognized certification. It helps propel them into a career in healthcare. We have automotive ones, we have computer science ones, we have a lot of different certifications that we offer. Right now, we're at about 50% of our graduates every year. So that is a goal of ours, that students are earning those already potentially freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. So we have some students earning as many as 10 certifications before they graduate, but that counts as one person, or that just counts as one graduate with a certification. So we're throwing about 400 certifications out a year, but a lot of those students are earning multiple certifications, which is a great thing. So like I said, we have some great programs. Our goal is to get those kids deep into a pathway so that they're really kind of expanding on that learning and then applying that learning out in the community, because it helps everybody when that happens. So that's what we're doing.
Can I just interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
So a good friend of mine is the trainer for the union carpenters and floor layers. And so if you're ever looking for a speaker, because you know the trades are dying for help. And so if you're ever looking for, he'd be a great speaker because he's the top trainer here in the area.
Yeah, so to kind of segue off that, on September 26th, we're having what we call our Muck Ready Day. So we have, for our high school, we have a bunch of people from the community coming in, and it's all about career exposure. So we have around 50 different speakers talking about different careers for our freshmen and sophomores. And we have different activities geared towards the junior level class and then the senior level class as well. So last year we had over 250 volunteers coming into our building to kind of expose that. And the job fair that we had multiple unions represented there, not only showing kind of what they do, but then talking and explaining that. And we had some kids getting hired on the spot. We had some kids taking brochures and reaching out after that. My email was very, very busy after that day, which was a good thing. So kids are very savvy these days. They know how to access technology, their information right now, but they also want feedback right now. So these kids are coming out, they're finding out like, hey, if I go here, they will pay for my school to go to this, and then that'll happen here. They've got it all mapped out. So it's pretty crazy.
You need somebody to speak on retirement, because I think there's 20.
Sean's
Okay.
All right, we got time.
I'll go very quickly here. Just give you guys a snapshot of our district's fund balance. Fund balance is a snapshot that takes place as of June 30th. It kind of counts your cash, money that you owe others, you subtract money that you owe others are your accounts payable, and then money that's owed to you, which is accounts receivable. Our auditors are actually in the district office right now. They're here for 2 days every year. We're wrapping this up. So what you see in yellow is we're finalizing 23 to 24. We were able to add about $1.9 million to our fund balance. But if you go to the next slide here, I just want to kind of clarify what that means. So we have July through June, which is our fiscal year, and this is our cash position. The bars in yellow are 4 years ago, 2021, and then the bars to the far right, which are blue, is 23-24. I highlight that because if we have a $21.9 million fund balance, if the school board said, Tom, how much money do we actually have should something go wrong? You could see July, August, September, October, November. November is our low water mark because of the way when we receive funding. You can see January, our funding goes up because property tax bills are paid and our cash position improves. But we really bottom out in November. And in this past November, we had $5.4 million of cash available. If we spent 5.4 million, we would have zero cash and then we have to short-term borrow. And we want to avoid that whenever possible. That's an unnecessary interest cost. But you know, what is 5.4 million? We're putting a new roof, a section of a roof on McGuanago High School. That's 1.8 million. Next summer, Clarendon gets a brand new roof. That's 1.7 million. Rolling Hills is approaching 25 years in age, and that roof is another 1.8 million. So 3 roofs and we're done, right? And there's a lot of other things that compete with that. So I highlight that to show this is what we have available. Should we want to build a new middle school? Could we do it operationally? No. There's just not enough money to actually accomplish something of that magnitude. Next slide. So as we look at last year's budget and then this year's budget, last year's budget, like I said, we added a little bit of fund balance here. Lots of inflationary pressures all around. Pick the expense, it was there, labor, transportation, utilities. There's pressures in every business's budget. School districts are certainly no exception. We launched a new health plan. Our health care provider asked for $2.5 million more. I said no. We revamped it. We launched something. We have great partnerships. We have a new one with Pro Health and things that we're doing for some of our female people on our plan. It's going really well. But we avoided that and improved our health plan. We paid off $9.9 million in additional referendum debt this past May. And then we purchased 917 Main Street, which is the old HD Financial Building just to the north. Blue Bay, we have an alternative education program that's going to open up here in a couple weeks. Looking ahead here, we really have to focus on teachers. That's the backbone of what we're doing, right? So we have to be competitive in the marketplace. When I say marketplace, I mean Kettle Moraine, Waukesha, Oconomowoc, Muskegon, New Berlin. What are they paying their teachers? We have to be somewhat in that ballpark. We just have to be. So we're focusing on a pay plan that starts brand new teachers at $49,000. Any teacher that has experience as a lead classroom teacher, we try to add at least $1,000 per year of experience to their offer. We have 45 new teachers, which is a lot out of 355. And we will continue to build balanced budgets. And I guarantee that we will reduce our tax levy as we certify that levy come this year. Okay, so State of the Union there.
Community survey for the building project. We had about 1,300 more responses this time than last time. I think I shared that here a couple months ago. It was a 27% response rate in our community, and so that is a great survey response rate. I mean, people think like you should get 50%. Why can't you get 75%? To have over 25% of the people who got a survey respond is a great position for us. Right now, we revised the project. We resurveyed with the community at 51% support. So it's when we went last time, we had 53% support. So we have 51% support right now. So the question that the board has to entertain on Monday evening is, do we proceed forward with this referendum during a higher voter turnout time, during a November time? You know, that was one of the comments that Tom and I had heard as we were presenting. Why are you guys trying to go in April? You're trying to sneak this by us. Why don't you come forward in November? We know November is going to be a big turnout. And I mean, what we learned is, I mean, people will find any particular reason not to vote for something, and also to have a comment, you know, make a public comment about it. But right, so November might be the time. The board has to entertain that on Monday night. We did hear 4 things in the survey responses: that the project is still too expensive, the tax impact is still too large, we're still paying the high school debt, and the impact of the reassessments. We just had a building meeting yesterday, so to discuss this project. And I think the thing that I'd like to share with you is there is no time where this project will be cheaper to do than right now. And you know, if the board wants to go and please pay attention on Monday evening when we have this presentation with the board. The project at the current level of interest rates and even what could be the future interest rates, it is going to be low right now. We can't necessarily predict if we came back in 2 years what it would be. The thing that we do know is the same project, the exact same project in 2 years, based off of industry averages, is going to cost us over $6 million more to do. So an $89 million project that we've surveyed will be $95, $96 million in 2 years if we wait. And I think that that's important for the community to remember. The tax impact again on this, if you remember back to when we presented on $1 million home, it's going to be $240 a year. So do the math backwards from there, and you can kind of see what the impact would be on this revised project.
A lot less than your Starbucks.
a lot less than Starbucks every day, or even a Starbucks a week over the course of the year, right? And again, I never tell people how to spend their money, but we want to make sure that we keep a project like this in perspective. On $1 million home, $240 a year. We're very grateful, for the opportunity to talk today. We're very grateful for the community that we serve. I mean, we have an excellent community. We have a very supportive community. Please don't take my survey response, or those public presentations as a reflection of how we feel about the community. It was just very interesting across town. We did, I think, 4 large public presentations. We had the same half dozen people show up, and the same half dozen people kept reiterating the same comments over and over again. And so for those of you who live here who really support this project and everything like that, if the board decides to go, the favor that I would ask is to please come to those public meetings, because that, you always hear the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? I mean, we need to make sure that if there are people in the community who support us doing this work, that they're there when we present. We appreciate the vote, but we also need people in the community to hear that there's folks who support this.
Other than more rejection, is there a downside to going forward with the referendum? Is there like a big expense or anything like that?
It's not a huge expense. It's
It
a
is
time investment. There's some investment of money. It's a huge time investment. And I think the thing, it's kind of what is the collateral damage of going back, right? One, you get the no, but two, the community can get referendumed out.
Yeah.
They can get tired of hearing you coming back and saying you need more, you know once already. So I think that that's one of the things that we have to be mindful of if we decide to go back, because if we go back then and it fails, then what is that future date that we can come back, and kind of what's the memory of the community? So got an opportunity for questions if you have any.
I'll just comment. So I work in the building industry and we're still getting price increases monthly.
Yep.
So it's a fact of life. Inflation supposedly is down, but it's not in construction. I mean, we see material prices. Yeah, lumber prices have come down, but we just were at a big meeting yesterday for 2 hours listening to it over and over again.
Yeah, and I mean, just the labor, right? I mean, you talk about you mentioned there's a shortage of employees, and shortage of employees, positions filled usually results in overtime, which usually results in a higher cost of the project. And I've got friends in the building industry, and I mean, they can't find help, and they still have to get the work done, so. Yes, sir.
No, I'm in favor of your cell phone policy, but I'm just wondering, how do you enforce that?
It's gonna be a big lift at the beginning of the school year. One of the key components of it, from an enforcement standpoint, the first time is, Tom, give me your phone, you can get it from me at the end of the day. What we're looping in after that is, the parent has to come in and pick the phone up. So we're gonna be engaging the parent in the disciplinary. We're not gonna release it into the parent. We're also not gonna release the phone back until the discipline has been served. So if you're a repeat offender and you have a detention, you're not getting your phone back until your parent picks it up after you serve the detention. And I've been in contact with the chief of police about putting a municipal citation in place. Germantown School District did this about 8 years ago. And they have a scale of fines starting out somewhere around $150, but if you continue to repeat, that goes up to nearly $1,000. For having your phone use in school. They had initial issues with it. So what they did was they had initial issues with it. They worked with the juvenile court in the village of Germantown. And what they do is kind of just diversion agreements, so it's like, all right, you've got $1,000 fine. If you can keep your act together for 6 months, you can keep your act together for the remainder of the school year. Your attendance is good, your grades are good, whatever it is, we'll wipe the fine out. The district didn't have a problem with that. I wouldn't have a problem with it as a superintendent. It's more just setting the standard that we're not gonna have these things out in school anymore. And I can speak to myself. I know we're running short on time. I go elk hunting when I get out in the mountains in Colorado, my cell phone doesn't work. And when I'm in that cycle of heavy social media use, it takes me about 24 hours and I suddenly become a new person, right? Because I'm not constantly grabbing for that stupid phone, right? We're seeing our young people who can't go out with friends without communicating to each other in a small group through Snapchat. And I mean, that is a huge issue.
Isn't there a way just to shut down the signal for the day?
We can't put a blocker in. Well, I asked about jammers when I worked at Waukesha because they were such an issue there, and they said by law, you cannot put a jammer in.
We can take certain social media apps away, which we do during the day.
But the workaround is to go off of, what the kids are doing is they're going off of the district network, they're using their own cell service, and then they're hooking up to a VPN, the virtual protected network, and they're using their Chromebook off of their phone to access whatever they want.
You realize you're gonna get pushback from parents also, because they're used to having nonstop access to their kids.
Yeah, and I would say of all of the comments that I've heard from parents, and I probably have heard since this passed from about 150 people, I've had a small handful complain about it, and the rest of them have said. "Thank you."
Usually they're like, how you feeling today, honey, or how's your anxiety level,
And we didn't get into a long discussion. I'd love to talk about that topic alone because kids are not allowed a safe place like school to grow up anymore. They constantly have their parents hovering over them. That's a different topic.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Sorry about the
Okay.
full length.
So you guys are great. Thank you. And as you know, polio eradication is a big goal of Rotary. So we have certificates here saying that we're going to purchase or pay for 25 vaccinations. You and Tom and Dustin will get you one.
Dustin,
And
they don't
then
get
we
anything
have
for Dustin.
a gift card
That
and a
wasn't
pen
long
for you
enough.
guys. Small gift card.
Dustin doesn't care.
I get a gift.
It's not necessary. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
So thanks for the great presentation, guys, and good luck. About 3 or 4 weeks till go time, right?
Sean really means
September
good
3rd.
luck.
Yes.
The high school will be rocking.
I'll be
today
at the
with
ballpark.
Pictures,
Yeah.
one piece of picture day.
I don't know if anybody's noticed, but Sean looks about 10 years younger.
Yes, I do. And Dustin, I'm shocked that you don't game day, Major League Baseball game day compliance monitor at your career.
That's a new one, and we will have the invite going out.
Okay, as we leave this meeting and go back into the world of life and work of the things we think, say, and do, let us remember to ask ourselves first.
Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Sean,
Appreciate it.
tell Eric Josh to put his phone where you can call us.
Good job.